I love how design thinking, like how it integrates the extremes, because that's kind of how I like to think. Because I think by going to the extreme situations, it helps me think better. And so, when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022 with its full army, I was trying to make sense of this situation that was kind of a unique one in our situation. And so, looking back to history is one of the ways to do that. And I ended up stumbling upon this Columbian professor, Richard Betts. And there's a particular lot of things in this article that he wrote, but there was one passage that I think just encapsulates a lot of what you're describing. And it had to do with the lessons we learned from World War One, although we didn't know them. Otherwise, if we had, we might have been able to slow down or prevent it. But this is what he says. He says, in a nation buffeted by memories of a great war, so he's referring to World War One, hindsight at the time suggested that the catastrophe of World War One might have been avoided if statesmen had shown more empathy for their adversaries, more willingness to take risks for peace, and above all, more military restraint as the summer crisis of 1914 worsened. So we have empathy, risks for peace, and restraint. And we've talked about a lot about empathy, and we've talked about even risk a little bit in terms of vulnerability. But I want to just kind of lean into that a little bit more as we talk about this mindset. And this might seem like an extreme example, but I think it can play out in maybe our small group, or maybe our church, or maybe our business, where things do kind of escalate, and there are divorces, and there are breakups, and there are church splits, and there are friends that part ways. So I think some of this can be relevant. But anyway, let's talk about that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I love the way that you think about this stuff, that you're like, let's find even more non-traditional applications for design thinking than what I've done.
Yeah.
And so I love it. World peace, that's a new one. We talk about how design thinking solves wicked problems, the things that other traditional methods can't solve. And I was like, world peace, that is a non-traditional wicked problem. I mean, empathy for our adversaries. Like, what is the conflict really about? What is this other person? We have our sound bites that make them sound bad and us sound good. What is it that they really are caring about, right? Understanding what their true goals are, that digging deeper empathy piece, super powerful. Now, can you always sit down with the world leader that is threatening war and understand that? Maybe, right? At the highest level of diplomacy, maybe. Can I? No. But we can do some discovery work in other ways and figure out what they really care about. Like, I would love right now, with what's going on with Israel and Gaza, and like, what are we really fighting about here, right? There's this deeply rooted historical value that's being threatened on all sides over there. Risks for peace. That was the second one, right?
Yeah.
So one of this is one of the things about design thinking and innovation that is hardest for me, is the risk taking piece, right? This perfectionist, I want to have the right answer. I don't love risk. But smart risks, small, safe, smart risks, right? So that's this idea in design thinking about kind of fail forward quickly, fail forward fast.
Yeah.
How can I try something without waiting to have the full thing baked and ready to go? How can I learn something quickly? So finding little ways to experiment, to say, does it help if we do this? Can we try this? Right? That don't have world shattering consequences if they don't work.
Yeah.
I don't know what those are. I'm not into policy and military strategy, but thinking about a marriage conflict, can I take a risk and say, would it be different if I tried? Because the only thing I can control is myself, right? This is true in government. It is true in marriage. I can only control myself. So am I willing to take a risk to try something different to see if that would make things better in my marriage? Yeah. It would make things better with my boss. It would make things better with my customers. Am I willing to try something? If I'm not willing to try something, I can't expect somebody else to be willing to try something to get to peace. So for sure, again,
and what's holding us? What are we missing if we're not willing to take that risk? And what do we have when we do take it?
we're missing the opportunity for growth and change, and we're stuck in our pride. We're stuck. Like I have I love a good like graphic t-shirt, and one of the ones I wear, especially around controversial moments, is nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yeah.
Right? Like this isn't going to change unless this situation isn't going to change unless something else changes, and I'm the only thing I can make change. And so what can I do differently to change the situation?
Yeah, I
So
think it's really powerful.
we're missing the opportunity to grow and change and evolve, and we are putting our stake in the ground, and we're saying, I'm going to stay right here and I'm not willing to budge. But that means you may not be pushed backwards, but you're not moving forwards. So
Interesting.
The way that I say it, again, it's a little bit of a like psychology manipulation trick, but when I'm, especially with kids, is if you're expecting the other person, if you're putting all the power in terms of changing things in the hands of the other person, you've surrendered all of your power and you've given them all of the power. Is that what you want? No, I've got the power. Okay, then you use your power to change. Right? But if I say I'm not moving, you need to move, you have now put yourself at the mercy of somebody else who is not likely to be moving in a direction that you would choose.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's really good. So where does vulnerability play a part in all that? Or a willingness to be vulnerable?
I mean, it's the willingness to, if I am convinced that I am right, why would I change? Because change then would imply that I was wrong. And so vulnerability comes in to say, I'm willing to acknowledge that I have a part in this system. I will do something different. I will surrender a little bit of my desire or my power in hopes that in the end, the result will be better.
Yeah.
So that vulnerability to say, I have to let go of my way, meet you some degree closer to where you are, in hopes that we'll get to a solution. The risk is once you move, you've now kind of become vulnerable because you're no longer stake in the ground position, and you could get totally trampled over.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess a scenario that comes to my mind is what do you think about if you're interacting with someone and their solution, their way is working for them now. They're on a road and their car is driving. It's working. But you see a little bit further down the road that there's a cliff and that road just drives off a cliff. And so, so you may not want them to drive off that cliff, right? And so you see something that they don't, I guess, essentially. So what are your thoughts about how blind spots kind of play a role in this and the connection between blind spots and the collaboration piece of design thinking itself?
Yeah, I mean, immediately in the sense of collaboration and design thinking is we all have blind spots, right? Like we can only see the world through our perspective, which means I'm missing some things. So if Jason, you're the creative entrepreneur type, I'm a follow the rules kind of type. If we're working together, you're going to see things in my blind spot pretty quickly because they are not your blind spots. And vice versa, I'll see things in your blind spots. And so by working together, I may be looking at the road right in front of me. You're able to say, Sarah, I've been down this road before. Here's what I think is going to happen. Let's talk about what we're going to do. And you'd find a way to help me come up with a new path forward. I think in all of it, the beyond innovation is this, like, you don't want to go through life alone, right? You want to have people that you can, it's why companies have board of directors. It's why people have mentors. It's why we encourage everybody to be in developmental relationships. Somebody who can speak into your blind spots, challenge you, support you, hold you accountable, to help you be willing to say, there is another way. Let me try it. Right. My way is different than Jason's way. My husband's new favorite phrase, I forget what TV show or movie he got it from, but it was, You don't have to do things my way, just don't do it the wrong way. And so, this idea of learning to let go of doesn't have to be my way. It could be a different way. Let's just be safe to make sure it's not the wrong way.
Yeah.
How you define what the wrong way is a whole nother thing I can't answer, but
well, what would be your short answer to what is the helpful way to help people if someone's like, I'm holding on to this thing that I want to let go, but my hands are like not opening. What do you tell them?
Okay, now we're getting into like psychology coaching work. My first question is, how's that working for you? And people usually can admit, I see that maybe it has some benefits, but in some ways it's not working. I'll say, if you hold on to this for the next 5 years, where do you see this going? How could it help you? How could it hurt you? What's the cost of hanging on to this in terms of your relationship, your business, your mental health, whatever it is? So it's kind of some strategic curiosity, right? Coming at it and saying, let go of it is not going to get you anywhere. But to help them identify, like, I'm holding on to it because it's serving me in some way right now.
Yeah.
Name those things, acknowledge that it is serving you in some way, and then name the ways that you recognize it's not serving you, and make the costs outweigh the benefits in some way.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's there's a on your former podcast, the Growing as Grown-ups, I was rewatching the interview with Robert Kigan. And he talks about the bridge, like crossing the bridge and like being on one side of the bridge and wanting others to cross the bridge. And just how, one, you want that so badly for them, but at the same time, they also have to do it for themselves. And it's this weird paradox dynamic.
Yeah, it's a great conversation. I love him. It goes back to that empathy of, rather than standing on the more solid side of the bridge and saying, come over here, it's better, really understanding what it looks like from that perspective. And when he was telling us that story, I was thinking of the Indiana Jones movie, and I don't remember, I want to say late Raiders of the Lost Ark, but that's the only one I really can think of, where they have to literally step out onto like an invisible bridge, and it's not until
the Last Crusade. That was the third
Last
one.
Crusade. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's the picture that came to my mind. And when he was saying that, is like, you, from your perspective, see that there is a solid bridge and life is better on your side. They are looking at what feels like death and very scary, that you're asking me to step away from what I know. And I don't even know that there's something on the other side.
Yes.
And the way that we define leadership is meeting somebody where they are in order to lead them where they need to go, which means you have to get back to the scary side of the bridge and walk with them, rather than standing in your safe place and saying, come on over, it's fine.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting. That movie is one of the perfect movies, obviously. But the tests, like after the bridge, then there's a situation where the chasm opens up and Elsa falls down, and Andy's there and the cup's on the ledge and Elsa's trying to grab it, and he's like, let it go, and she falls into the abyss, and then he slides down and he's right where she was, and his father's holding his hand saying, let go, you don't need it. And so it's just such these powerful memories. That's a movie I grew up with, that were so timeless that they're still relevant today. So I want to talk about the last piece here, is restraint. So he says more military restraint as the crisis escalated. And this kind of goes back to earlier what I said, like, even when you're having a conversation and it gets heated and emotional and you want to react, and it might turn into a sort of a conversational fight versus a literal fight, although a literal fight can be the case for many. Tell us about that restraint layer, and does design thinking give us any resources to deal with that?
I mean, from a design thinking standpoint, I would say the anchoring point would be to go back to what the problem is you're trying to solve. That definition statement. My first thought when I heard you say this again today, was more from some of my work in like difficult conversations, in those conflictual situations, which is in order to help you restrain, reminding yourself, what is my goal? What am I really trying to accomplish? And how would I act if that was true?
Yeah.
So if what I really want is peace, how I'm going to act if that's true is with restraint and with a peaceful orientation, no matter what is coming at me.
Mm.
And so I think, coming at it from a design thinking lens might be a stretch. But again, some of those mindsets are fundamentally true, right? We're solving problems for people. We're focused on what is the real problem. What do we want? What do they want?
Yeah.
And then what is it going to take to solve that? Not getting stuck with my initial solutions or approaches or strategies. And so if what I really want is peace, I need to stay as peaceful as I can so that if they amplify, if I respond, they can amplify more, and I respond, they can amplify more, and I respond. And now we're at war. Versus if they amplify and I can stay calm, it's harder for them to keep going if I stay calm. It can calm down. So using that restraint, emotional contagion is the like fancy psychology phrase for it, but modeling and living into the solution that you want. My goal is peace. I need to act with peace. My goal is mutual respect. I need to treat you with respect.
Are you a small business owner? Have you hit a glass ceiling where year over year, you cannot rise above a certain revenue level? Check out Jason Scott Montoya's book, The Jump, to discover how to level up your leadership and pivot your entrepreneurial passion to the highest level.